What's up YouTube, Dave and Zephyr Wargames. We are here with Michael, and as you can see by this beautiful man in front of you and posted on our Facebook, Michael came second in the Cockfosters Regional last week, and he didn't do it with Spirals, Tricksters or even Pendulum Magicians. He did it with, I don't know the exact title, it's Invoked.
Invoked Handtrap with links.
Invoked Handtrap with links. So as a disclaimer at the start, we do mention that this was done before the ban list, but there's only 2 cards he has to change in the deck, and they're quite straightforward changes because you either then put in like your Monster Reborn, which I believe is what he's going to talk about, and then it's a 43 card deck.
It's 43.
So I'll explain it down.
I'll just cut it down to 42 after the list.
Explain your choices. Talk about your matchups as well. So what matchups did you face that you can remember?
Yeah, sure. So tournament was the regional was 7 rounds. In those 7 rounds, I faced 4 Spiral in a row. Believe it or not. One ABC True Draco. 1 Pendulum Magician, and the last one was Phantasm Spiral.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what was your loss against?
It was one of the Spiral
One
players.
of the Spiral?
Yeah.
Just outrun? Or what? Obviously, I watched a couple of the games you did, and I saw that Eater of Millions played.
It did, yeah. Eater of Millions put in a lot of work. As I'll show in the profile.
Yeah.
No, my loss was to the Spiral, was this one Spiral player, which I made the incorrect play of hitting him at the. But I hit him at the incorrect time with a hand trap, and he had the gamma, and things just went downhill from there.
Right.
So.
Anyway, show us your deck profile. Show us what you've got, and then we'll take it through from there.
Show the deck box.
The lovely deck box. Yeah. It's a shame it wasn't the Skull Deep mat.
This one's still.
Oh, this one's still amazing, but Scoldy as well is an absolute badass.
It's real bit. All right, so straight into the monsters. Obviously, you're playing 3 Alistair.
Yep.
Pretty much your go-to monster for the deck. You want to see this as soon as possible, turn 1, so you can get your plays going. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up is moving on to the hand traps. 3 Ghost Reaper. I really love 3 Ghost Reaper because it's pretty much the only hand trap which the opponent can't respond with Gamma, because in order to fulfill the requirements, they've got to control more monsters than you. Just brilliant for hitting those extra deck monsters and just cancelling out some of their strategies.
The Omega and Gamma.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, the 1 Maxi.
Obviously now going to get changed. That's your straight out from Monster Reborn.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Monster Reborn is going straight into the deck.
Did put in work though throughout the day. 3 Ash. Of course, hand trap build, you gotta have them.
Purgatory play as well. Do you play that in the extra?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Next up, 3 Ogre.
Yeah, Mechba plays out.
Yeah, this is the only light monster I was playing in the main deck. Even though you do really want to turbo Mechbas, I didn't really have the room to fit in the Gamma package. I was trying it out. But at the end of the day, I thought Ghost Ogre was enough. And at the end of the day, if you're counting out your opponent's plays, you're still doing quite well. So that was that. So that's it for the hand traps. Moving on to the other monsters is, of course, 3 Eater of Millions. I really love this card. For those of you who don't know, in order to summon this, you can banish any number upwards of 5 of your cards from your extra deck or your field, face down, or from your hand actually.
Yeah.
Face down, and he gains 100 attack for each face down banished card. This includes the opponent's cards. Should the opponent have played Pop Desires, then that's an additional 1,000 attack points. And what I really love about this is it outs a lot of monsters. Even though it doesn't have much attack points, as soon as it battles something, it banishes that monster face down, so it adds. It's already eating as the name suggests, it eats its attack points. And like I said, it's just brilliant for outing several problem monsters. And you're not always going to, your fusions aren't always going to out everything. And what I love about this is its ability to sort of combo with your fusions. It obviously doesn't have to take up the extra deck zone. So even if things aren't going so well with the fusion side, or if you've been hit by a dimensional barrier or something, this still means that you're going to be answering threats.
And if you have like dead cards, I mean, like if you're extra dead, you know you're not playing. You're playing Spirals. You've got like I don't know, Trickster or other extra dead monsters you're not going to need. You can get rid of them, and plus if you open up Reapers that are useless to you, you banish them as part of Eater. And
there you go. There were times when I'd banish a field spell that I'd already used or something. Yeah. Just whatever you can to fulfill the requirement. So great card. The 1 Gofu.
Simple drop on that.
Pretty much 3 decodes are quite nice. So yeah, that's for that. And also the other great thing about Gofu is while you're summoning the decode, you go through a proxy, and that's already a light monster to set up your Mechaba with.
But now that is now cut, so it just makes the deck a little bit more consistent, I suppose, dropping it down to a 42.
I do miss Gofu to some extent.
I think everyone misses Gofu,
but I do agree it is nice getting down to 40 cards. 1 Spellbook Magician. I was playing around with maybe not including this in the deck, but there were scenarios where you'd have the secrets and maybe they'd hit your Alistair with strike or something, or you just wouldn't have access to the Alistair, and this way you still have a play. And it's just really good for getting to your combo pieces sooner. And the last of the main deck monsters are 2 Kaijus. I decided to go with these Kaijus over something like Doggerun, which would be a fire attribute, because I wanted Kaijus which my Mechabo would be able to run over in the case. And the reason that I'm playing 2 different Kaijus as opposed to 2 Gamma Seals is in the scenario that if you draw both of them together, you're able to give one to your opponent and give one to yourself. As did come up in one scenario where I played Pop of Desires, banished 10, drew into both of these, and this just helped me out the opponent's field, so really good. Moving on to spells. That was 20 monsters, moving on to spells. Course 2 Invocation. I see some people playing 3, but I'm not really keen on 3. You don't really want to see Invocation unless you search it off the Alistair. But I can certainly see the argument for that, but I wouldn't change
I think less so in your build in the sense that you don't rely on the extra deck monsters themselves. In the sense that if you've got 3 and you are playing pure Invoked or you're playing an Artifact Invoked, you want to get your Mechba out and maybe get rid of it and kind of cycle around. But the fact that Invocation is stupidly recyclable as well is, you know...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Next up, 2 Meltdowns. And combo with that, playing triple Terraforming. The reason I went with 3 Terraforming and 2 Meltdown as opposed to 3 and 3 is because unlike say, Dragonic Diagram, you can only use Meltdown's search ability once per turn. And I didn't want to be in this scenario came up before. I didn't want to be in the scenario where I open with multiple Meltdowns and not being able to resolve more than one. Whereas Terraforming, on the other hand, you can play as many of them as you want in a turn, assuming you haven't been hit by Droll or anything like that. So I didn't want to be in a scenario where I just open up multiple Meltdowns. So that's why I went with 2 and 3. And honestly, I didn't look back. Great decision on my part. 2 Desires. I really didn't like the idea of 3 because you don't want to be. There's always that dreaded scenario where you play the Desires and you draw into another copy of it.
Yeah.
And obviously you can only play the 1 per turn, so you really don't want to be in that scenario. And I felt, because the deck's 43, I felt I could get away with that because I was playing Desires.
Yeah.
And of course, gives more attack points to Eater of Millions and gets your combo pieces. So, great card. And as a side note, before I activated this, I always made sure I'd search for at least 1 copy of Invocation, because you never want to be in the scenario where you've where you've locked yourself out of your extra deck just from a really unlucky Desires cost. So, got to be really careful in that respect. Next up, 3 Scapegoat. I really like Scapegoat in this deck. It really unlocks the extra deck's full potential, allows you to swarm the board, and in the scenario where you can set up multiple links, it allows you to spam the board with fusions, which is amazing, especially if you've already got an Invocation in your hand and an Alistair already. You just go all out. The other great thing about this, and I'll go into more detail later on when I show the deck when I show the extra deck, is Scapegoat did help me answer, through the link monsters, it helped me answer a lot of threats which some of the fusions couldn't do. And just as I mentioned with Eater of Millions, it's another card which can help build up your board, since under Master Rule 4 it's really difficult to get multiple fusions out.
Yeah.
Next up, 2 Spellbook of Secrets, and a combo with that, 2 Spellbook of Knowledge. Pretty standard, really great scenario if you're able to resolve Alistair and then draw 2 by sending it to the grave. You're already in a brilliant position, and you should have drawn into a lot of your hand traps by then. So the idea was just to give the deck a bit more speed. 1 Regeki. Again, I did build this deck for going second because I felt like with all the hand traps, it was the natural decision to make. And I wanted to disrupt my planes as much as possible, and I felt this card was too good not to include in the main. So, it's self-explanatory. And the last of the spells is 3 Cosmic Cyclone. I really wanted to keep Cyclone in the main because the Time Pendulograph?
Yeah.
Pendulograph, yeah. That card was just a nightmare, and I really wanted an easy out to it. And also just things like Spiral Resort and Last Resort as well. Just to being able to chain this to Sleeper or something, and so Sleeper would end up destroying itself. Just really great. So that's it for the spells. It's 20 spells, and to round up the deck, 3 trap cards, 3 evenly matched.
Yeah, straightforward on this.
Pretty much.
Second
Yeah.
deck, yeah.
So there's that. Do you want extra deck next?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we'll take the side.
Alright, extra deck was 2 Mechaba. I like 2 instead of 3 because I was really running out of space in the extra deck, and I felt like if I was going to the third one, then obviously something's not going well. So I felt 2 was enough. 1 Purgatrio. Brilliant, brilliant. When your opponent plays the scapegoat, you just go through all of them and burn them to death. It's brilliant. One Mega Lanica. I've seen a lot of people cutting this, but I really don't understand why. This came up a lot of times, banishing the opponent's quick fix in their graveyard. It's really way too good, and of course 3,000 tap points, not easy for them to answer. And great card for getting rid of that. One Raging. Again, great for locking your opponent out of their extra deck and hitting their zones. One Cassitus, of course you did see them playing the one Gamma Seal and the Spellbook Magician. And in the scenario that I did go against Paleo or something, I did want something else to go into.
Yeah.
Due to the lack of space, I couldn't put in, was it Caliga, the dark one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to cut something in the end, I decided to cut that.
He is the first one to...
Yeah. Next up, one Baguska. It's the only Exceed I play in the scenario where you have two Alistairs and one's managed to stay on the field or whatever. Just if it's there. And it's another card to hit off Ghost Reaper, which really came up in the Pendulum Magician matchup.
Yeah.
So very good. One Decode.
Yeah.
Pretty self-explanatory. One Proxy.
Yeah.
And then one Link Spider.
Take out those tokens.
Yeah. And then one Ib and one Ningirsu.
+1 combo.
Exactly, and this is what I was talking about with the Scapegoat combo. You just go into this, you get a draw, and you're able to get multiple zones on the field. And the fact that you can answer an opponent's card with this is very, very useful, especially if you've got like a field spell that you don't need, you just send that to the graveyard, and you've still got both of these. This is also a spellcaster, so you can use that with knowledge if it comes to that. And it's just all around brilliant. And the next ones were Omega. As I mentioned, I was playing Gamma for the longest time, but in the end I decided to cut it. But I decided to keep the Omega, because in the scenario that I get Ghost Reapered, I wanted my opponent to see the Omega and assume that I was playing Gammas. Might sound crazy, but this did come up at one point. My opponent completely changed that strategy because they assumed I had access to a Gamma. And also for just hitting Pendulum Magicians, because
they're going to go into it at least twice.
This deck makes a lot of combos with one card, like Terraforming and so forth. And if their opponent's Omega happens to hit that one card, it's quite devastating, so you don't want to be in that scenario, you just want to stop them. And this is also good against something like Zombie Sworn or Light Sworn, so just stop them outright. One Buster Dragon, naturally for the ABC matchup. And the last card was a double Helix, but obviously I was borrowing that for the day. But that was the 15th card in the extra deck.
Yeah, we can do shout out to your channel now.
Moving on to the side deck.
Yep, so this is one of the more important ones. This is what wins games.
So for the side deck, 3 Magical Spring.
Yeah.
This is for the Pendulum Magician matchup. What I love about this card is it's good going first and second against that deck, because I've noticed that deck loves to pop its cards if they go something like Wisdom Eye and
Any other magician.
Purple Poison or something. Then they'll attempt to pop the Wisdom Eye, you chain this, you draw 2, discard 1, but then you've locked them out of Pendulum Summoning pretty much, because that Wisdom Eye is going to stay in the scale.
Yeah.
And this is really great going second, because most of the time they'll end their board with 2 scales and the continuous spell.
Time and Star, isn't it?
Star Pendulum Graph. So that's draw 3, discard 1. So great for getting to your cards and great for getting to your evenly matches, which is how you would out that board, most likely going second. And just great. Especially some players I've noticed they'll play the trap card preemptively when you're in your standby phase or something, just so they can't get hit by Ghost Ogre or something. And I can understand that move, it's logical, but then that's an additional draw from Magical Spring. And even though Magical Spring does protect their cards from being destroyed, you can sort of bypass that with things like Cosmic Cyclone and Evenly Matched. So the idea is that you draw it into more cards, but at the same time you're still answering threats in their back row. So that was the idea behind that. Next up, 3 Mind Crush. Mind Crush was for the Invoked matchup, but it was also for things like Trickstar and Spiral, just any deck which searches a lot basically, and to some extent Pendulum Magicians.
Evenly matched as well.
Evenly matched, yeah. Because there was a few scenarios where I'd set this, and obviously I'm not playing that many trap cards, so I don't really want to rely on Mecha Butt out, things like Evenly Matched, so I remember one opponent, he went into main phase, he went straight into battle phase. It was painfully obvious he had the Evenly Matched, so I just called this. He actually had 2 copies in his hand, so I hit both of those, and it was quite devastating, and yeah, it put in a lot of work. And of course, because it's a hand trap build, most of the time you have cards in your hand. Alistair recycles himself through Invocation, so you're never in the scenario where you can't resolve this. Next up, 3 Prohibition. Now, the idea behind this is because with Spiral Super Agent, obviously is a key part of their deck, but other cards in their deck, such as Double Helix, Tough, they all become Spiral Super Agent when they hit the field. So if I've activated Prohibition and I've declared Spiral Super Agent, as soon as they go into the Double Helix, or they summon the Tough, or they special summon the Super Agent, even if they call correctly off Super Agent, it will have its effect negated. So great for locking down their plays and keeping them from advancing their strategy. And that was the idea behind it. The other idea was also to hit evenly matched. There was one game against Spirals where I'd open both of these. Or I'd open one I desired and I drew into the other one. So I activated this, declared Spiral Super Agent, and then I played the other one, declared evenly matched, because evenly matched was the only thing I was worried about in that scenario. And he showed me his hand at the end of the game and he had both of them, so that's what it was mainly there for.
Ripperoonie.
Yeah. Next up, 3 Solemn Strike. This was more going first against Spiral and also Pendulum Magicians, great for hitting that Pendulum Summon, and I wanted something else to hit effect with, and just an all-round really great card. And the last of the side deck is 3 Draw Unlocks. I wasn't too sure about Draw Unlocks, I decided to cut it out of the main deck because unlike things like Ash and I guess Ogre.
Yeah.
Droll just delays them for a turn. So if they play Terraforming, they search their field spell, you hit them with Droll, they're pretty much just going to do what they can and pass turn. But next turn they're just going to go off. This just buys you a turn, which obviously this is an OTK build, so you're not really going to take full advantage of that turn.
Yeah.
So I thought this wasn't necessary to include in the main deck. I did put in the Raging in my extra deck just in case I decide to put this back in. But this was more for going second against Trickstar and, well, pretty much against all 3, really. Trickstar, Pendulum Magicians, and Spiral.
Yeah, the main kind of threats at that type of level now. And, you know, would you still run this at an event you would take to now? Is this... Obviously, you would adapt it to the upcoming ban or the relevant ban list.
Obviously, I'd put in Monster Reborn of one of the... of a Gofu and Maxi, knock it down to a 42-card deck. But yeah, I'd still play it. I need to get hold of an Electromite.
As a Reaper target,
as a Reaper target, because that would just help so much.
See, that's my other biggest issue as well, is even though a card is expensive in general, it now means that the rogue deck players that want to play cherries would then need to find it as well, so it does maintain its value. Regardless, congratulations on coming second. Michael is probably our main player. He does win or tops. I think he's top 2 nationals on the bounce as well. And then amazingly well at this regional, so well done on that, and especially with a deck that wasn't Spirals, P Magicians, or of course Tricksters. So congratulations on that. I hope this deck gives you an idea. Obviously we do say that it has now been updated for the current ban list. It's not too hard to change or update, and the 2 cards he's lost in Maxi and Gofu, yes, it's a little bit damaging, but when you replace them with something like Monster Reborn, it's not going to be that end of the world, because then let's say you do use one mech bar, you then bring back the second mech bar or something like that, and you've got 2 plays going on there, you've got more plays to use and abuse and kind of work it through that. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time guys, as always, happy dueling. What's up YouTube, thanks for watching that video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button, and of course don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button in the bottom left hand corner and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. We've got more deck profiles, duels, pack openings and many more Yu-Gi-Oh videos coming up for you all year round, so don't forget to stay tuned for all of that. Thanks, and as always guys, happy dueling.